At the age of 13, she appeared on a brightly illuminated stage, her voice powerful and raw. As Courtney Hadwin gave the song her all, the audience sat in silence. Nobody thought a little girl from County Durham would be able to rock a packed theater in America in a matter of seconds. Today, we'll follow her incredible ascent. The incident that permanently altered her life and the disaster that transpired after her dream. Join me as we discuss Courtney Hadwin's story, from an optimistic audition to a tragic accident, and discover how her spirit got her through the most trying time in her life. On stage, they witnessed a bold girl, but what suffering was concealed by her strong voice? Before everything was altered by celebrity, what was Courtney Hadwin's true identity in private? A young girl with lofty goals. Anne-Marie Hadwin and Paul Hadwin welcomed Courtney Hadwin into the world on May 6, 2004, in the little English village of Hesleden in County Durham. Her parents are industrious and constantly find time to support her musical abilities, even on hectic days. Courtney was extremely young when she first heard soul music. Her mother sang songs by a variety of well-known musicians. This aided her in her singing because she had demonstrated an early love of music. She learned to hum along with various melodies and tap her foot to powerful rhythms. She was able to raise her hands in the air and dance whenever her parents played music in the house when she was 3 years old. Her parents were incredibly happy because of her passion for music. In the house, they enjoyed watching her perform small roles. At the age of 8, she began taking singing lessons from the school. Her voice had a distinctive depth and an angelic tone, which her music teacher remarked. She was urged by the teacher to join the school chorus. She became more comfortable singing each song thanks to weekly practice sessions in the school hall. She felt proud to be on stage with her classmates at assembly. Her classmates gave her the nickname Rocker Girl when they witnessed her simultaneously dancing and singing. She never felt nervous about playing in front of an audience and exudes confidence. She likes to sing. Courtney Hadwin had a strong dedication to her craft. Her music lessons were never missed. In order for her voice to attain the highest pitch, she learned to focus on her breathing. She used her bedroom mirror to rehearse vocal scales before school. Could even compose songs while they were so young. When she was 10 years old, she organized a group of kids from the neighborhood to play and sing. Durham Soul was their name. Their parents provided them with a great deal of assistance. They also helped to buy drums and guitars for them. They may draw small audiences to watch and join in on the singing. Her talent started to be noticed by her neighborhood. An article on a teenage singer with an amazing voice was written by a reporter for the local newspaper. The headline said, "A little girl infuses County Durham with soul." That piece provided Courtney a cause to feel her voice mattered and made her parents proud. She also attended Shotton Hall Theatre School for training. Every weekend, she was driven to practice by Anne-Marie. She worked on control and phrasing with the music instructor she found there. Courtney developed her ability to modulate her voice to fit the mood of each song. She decided to use sound to convey her emotions. She performed on a tiny festival stage for the first time in Durham City. There were thousands of spectators. At first, she was anxious to stand under those lights. She quickly regained confidence and attention. Everyone applauded her when she completed singing the last song. Even people who were unaware of her name applauded because her wonderful voice touched them. She was frequently asked to sing at birthday celebrations and other neighborhood activities by her friends and even her classmates. She discovered that using music to express her emotions was possible when she stood in front of a small group of people she knew. She always chose songs whose words spoke to her on an inner level. Every song was lovely and delightful for listeners because of that decision. Her aspirations had beyond her hometown by the time she was 12. Her parents' pocket money was saved by her. She wished to assist them in covering the cost of her airline tickets. Her ambition was to be able to share her gift on a bigger platform. She jotted down the things she wanted to accomplish late at night. The fact that this youngster was gifted from birth made her unique. I'm aware of it. Could you? With the help of friends and family, every step felt simpler. Her mother constantly encouraged her to work hard, maintain her humility, and never forget her life's purpose. She thought about their remarks as she got ready to go home. The first chapter of her story was her dream of a larger world outside of Hesleden. Was America going to notice her gift or ignore her as a mere child with a suitcase and a dream? What transpired when she eventually stepped onto the stage? The audition that took America by surprise. When 13-year-old Courtney Hadwin landed in Omaha, Nebraska, in the summer of 2018, she had a leather jacket, a little bag, and a lot of willpower. The United States was a new place to her. Her family friends had cautioned her about jet lag and suggested that she get plenty of rest after landing. The only thing she had on her mind, though, was getting on America's Got Talent. Courtney arrived at the CenturyLink Center the morning of her audition feeling both anxious and delighted. In tiny groups, optimistic dancers and singers rehearsed within the holding area. After backstage personnel randomly announced names, competitors had to wait in quiet until their turn. Grasping her audition form in one hand, Courtney Hadwin grasped her fedora in the other. After taking a deep breath, she followed the producers onto the stage and down a little hallway. Bright lights were shining on the judges' table. Mel B, Heidi Klum, Howie Mandel, and Simon Cowell did not applaud each act until the very end. There was silence in the audience as Courtney moved to the middle of the stage. She had on a white shirt, dark jeans, and a small black leather jacket. Around her shoulders, her hair cascaded in flowing waves. The band started playing the opening notes of Piece of My Heart, and the auditorium fell silent. Initially, her voice was quiet. She felt her heartbeat as she closed her eyes. She suddenly revealed her true might. Strength and longing cracked in her voice. Like a vocalist twice her age, she stamped her foot in rhythm with the song. There was grit and emotion in every note. Simon's eyebrows went up as he leaned forward. Heidi sat up straight, her eyes wide. Howie couldn't contain his amazement, so he put his hand over his mouth. Mel B, waiting for more, she drummed her fingers on the table. Cheers broke out in the theater as the last chord was played. The judges stood and cheered her outstanding performance. When Simon pressed his buzzer, a red light glowed onto the stage, marking a unique moment. Courtney's eyes snapped open. She noticed Simon grinning and made a grab at her hat. She looked at her mother, who was crying with happiness backstage, and then at the judges. She was given a microphone for a brief interview by a producer. "I love to sing," she murmured, her voice tremulous. "It gives me a sense of freedom." Viewers were moved by her response's simplicity. The next evening, her performance video became viral on social media. On YouTube, it had received more than 10 million views by morning. Reports from the BBC and the New York Times referred to her as the voice of a teenage Janis Joplin. She was complimented by headlines for her raw power and ferocious manner. Front-page features in her hometown of Hesleden's newspapers detailed how she had become a household name in America. Courtney was asked to return the next day for a more intimate audition by the producers. Cameras rolled in a glass room as she reconnected with judges and other competitors. She sang Heart and Soul, an original composition by Laura, her vocal instructor. Everywhere in the room could feel the emotion in her voice, even without the full stage lights. Simon commended her for using her imagination to pick a music that expressed how she was feeling. "You are not simply mimicking someone," he continued, "you are who you are." It turned out to be crucial. She was guaranteed to go straight to the live performances by the judges. A few of her other performers accompanied her out of the audition area, congratulating her and giving her hugs. While acknowledging a growing sense of belonging on the America's Got Talent stage, Courtney also talked about missing her friends and family in interviews. She received a ton of messages that evening. She received accolades on many social media sites from new admirers all across the world. Thank you messages flooded in from places as far afield as Brazil and Japan for sharing her song. "I feel alive when I hear your voice," one fan commented. Another remarked, "You remind me of my daughter." It was impossible for Courtney Hadwin to contain her tears of happiness. She came to the realization that her music had touched people she would never have met. Videos of her audition continued to gain views throughout the course of the following few weeks. It was necessary to appear on talk shows. she received a live televised singing invitation from the Today Show. By taking online classes, she managed to balance the ongoing task with her academics. Her parents supported her and helped her balance. She consistently prioritized singing over celebrity in all of her interviews. Both her talent and her bravery were evident in her journey from her small choir in England to a standing ovation audition in the United States. She was devoted to her craft, and this was her finest work. The world learned about Courtney Hadwin from her audition. After that, nothing was the same. Courtney Hadwin got her chance to shine as America's Got Talent had discovered its new star. Overnight feeling. By the time live performances began, Courtney Hadwin had evolved beyond a mere competitor. She made headlines. After her online audition, fans all over the world fell in love with her within hours. Videos of her performance were posted on social media by fans, who tagged friends and relatives. Titles such as Teen Rockstar from England Steals the Show were featured on news websites. Her YouTube video had over 10 million views in less than a day. All of a sudden, this young County Durham girl was caught up in a tornado she had only ever imagined. A special chaperone arrangement brought her to Los Angeles. She was busier with schoolwork. Due to her frequent travels, she needed aid with her coursework in order to retain her grades, thus her tutor provided it. Additionally, she made time to concentrate on her upcoming performance. She got up early to practice before breakfast every morning. In order to support each note, she stretched her shoulders and chest while warming up her voice with various scales. Her coach kept a close eye on her and gave advice on breathing techniques and timing. Daily tweaks increased her self-assurance and helped her become more proficient at what she did. Rehearsals on the America's Got Talent soundstage took place in the afternoons. There were bright lights hanging above, and cameras traveled on tracks to record all viewpoints. Courtney became proficient with fog machines and spotlights so that nothing would overpower her voice. She learned to pause at the end of each line for dramatic effect and practice strolling while holding the microphone stand. Her attention to detail astounded the filmmakers and producers. She handled every new problem with maturity beyond her years, according to one crew member. Courtney decided to sing, possibly by Janis Joplin, when the week of live performances approached. Deep red lighting and luminous arches surrounded the stage where she stood. The audience was silent until she started. Then she opened her mouth, releasing a forceful, emotionally charged sound. Around the halfway point of the song, the audience stood up and cheered so loudly that the arena was filled. The judges nodded their satisfaction and grinned. Confetti cannons exploded as she finished, still standing on stage, enveloping her in glistening streamers. For minutes, the cheers continued. Charts, music blogs, and fan sites all featured her name. Her performances became one of the most watched video in the history of the talent competition within a day. Her team was called upon by talk shows. Her initial appearance on the Ellen DeGeneres Show was arranged by them. Ellen gave her a big hug as she stepped onto that stage. Ellen's gravelly tone made them giggle as she attempted to sing a line. Courtney mentioned that she missed her dog back home and that she felt satisfied when she heard clapping. Jimmy Fallon's The Tonight Show followed. She was singing a blues classic when Jimmy surprised her with a live drumming behind her. In time with the beat, the audience applauded. Following the performance, Jimmy and Questlove, his bandleader, complimented her vocal control and musical intensity. They discussed starting a band together. With a grin, Courtney replied she would think about it after she was done with her coursework. Each appearance contributed to her increasing notoriety. Studio time offers were sent by record labels. Merchandise firms inquired about t-shirts and hoodies. Courtney, though, remained grounded. She recalled what her mother had said, "Sing for joy, not for attention." She kept her family close by calling home after every interview. Through her songs, she saw letters from people who found hope. She was able to write brief phrases like, "I sang for millions. It was enjoyable, therefore I will sing from the heart tomorrow." From a single audition video to international acclaim, Courtney Hadwin's story became an overnight hit. However, the secret to her rapid success was hours of practice, intense concentration, and the same ambition she had as a young child, to sing with all of her heart. The bold girl with the powerful voice was well known to millions of people. However, what occurs if the spotlight wanes and one wet night permanently alters everything? What was the actual event of that evening? That terrible evening. Courtney Hadwin joined other America's Got Talent finalists on a mini tour in early October 2018. After performing live for weeks, the ensemble left Minneapolis and took a bus to Madison, Wisconsin. They had consecutive shows at several theaters on their program. Courtney could check fan messages on her phone while sitting by a window all the time. The rain outside pounded against the window. The chauffeur, competent on lengthy roads, maintaining a steady speed in the presence of highway lights. Others sat on seats and covered their knees with blankets. Overhead racks held luggage, and padded cases held instruments. Nobody could have predicted that their trip would abruptly change course as they approached a curve on Interstate 94. Around midnight, the bus came to a section of road that is notorious for its slick conditions. Patches of water collected along the shoulder where the rain had been falling for hours. The bus was driven toward the guardrail by a burst of wind as it rounded the bend. Hard braking was used, but the driver was unable to restore complete control. Nearly 20 feet were skidded sideways by the vehicle. A jolt propelled Courtney forward as she shifted in her seat. Cabinets overhead flew open, and cases slid out of their storage spaces. Inside the bus, there was the reverberation of glass tapping and metal scratching. Then the bus finally lurched to a stop against the guardrail. The collision was met with silence, broken only by the sound of the rain outside and muted cries. Courtney massaged the spot on her forehead where it had hit the luggage rack. She checked herself for injuries, unbuckled her seatbelt, and rose up gingerly. There was a stinging aching in her right knee, and blood trickled down her temple. Shaken but cognizant, fellow musicians rose from their seats in front of them. The keyboardist gripped his wrist and winced in agony. His shoulder was bruised from a loose case, and the tour manager squeezed it. Outside, the bus leaning against the barrier was accentuated by headlights from passing cars. A couple drivers pulled over to assist, utilizing flashlights indoors and contacting emergency personnel. The first responders showed up in a matter of minutes. A fire truck, 2 ambulances, and a highway patrol cruiser arrived behind the bus. Paramedics with emergency kits and stretchers hurried on board. They evaluated injuries one by one while speaking softly to each passenger. Beside the bus, Courtney took a seat in a folding chair. A paramedic confirmed a fracture after carefully examining her knee. He raised her leg and covered it with a gentle brace. The cut on her forehead was cleansed by another responder. In her responses to all of the questions, Courtney detailed the collision and the extent of her discomfort. For X-rays and additional care, she consented to be transported to a local hospital. Courtney underwent scans at Madison St. Mary's Hospital. A slight concussion and a fracture of the right kneecap were verified. She would need 6 weeks of physical therapy and restricted movement, but no surgery was required for the knee. Because of the concussion, she needed to minimize her screen time and rest her head. Nurses took her to a separate room. She was shown a therapy session schedule by a doctor who also described each step of the treatment process. She continued to inquire about how she could safely resume singing even after Courtney gave her consent. News of the collision spread rapidly. Posts on social media wishing her a speedy recovery were everywhere. On her bedside TV, a fan-made page arranged messages in a slideshow format. Other America's Got Talent competitors uploaded little films expressing their relief that nobody had been seriously hurt. Courtney's bravery was praised in get-well greetings recorded by judges Heidi Klum and Simon Cowell. An almost instantaneous GoFundMe page was created by a friend. In less than 48 hours, it raised $32,000 to pay for therapy and travel expenses. Courtney was appreciative of the support she received from people all across the world and smiled as she read these notes. Dates for the tour were canceled in the interim. When fans bought tickets for dates in Wisconsin, theater management and ticket agents got in touch with them. And Illinois. In addition to processing refunds, many fans offered to contribute their ticket purchases to the recovery fund. According to a statement issued by the tour bus business, the crash was caused by strong winds and rain. A comprehensive safety review was promised. When physicians gave the all-clear to fly, Courtney's team made plans for someone to transport her home to England while they concentrated on her recovery. In interviews conducted from her hospital room, she expressed her disappointment at the cancelled events but also her appreciation for the attention and care. Under medical supervision, Courtney returned to England via plane after spending 2 days in Madison. She was picked up at the airport by her parents, who assisted her in getting into the waiting car and through customs. Courtney returned home to County Durham and settled nicely. In a modest clinic close to Hesleden, physical therapy got its start. Every session included knee-strengthening exercises, balance drills, and gentle stretches. Her reading and phone use were restricted to brief periods in accordance with concussion guidelines. To keep her voice in shape, she practiced mild humming during pauses. To help kill time, family friends brought in magazines and food. Even though the collision had interrupted her hectic schedule, it also provided her with time to relax and think. Courtney began penning songs about optimism and resiliency. She used her garden shed studio to doodle ideas for upcoming shows. Laughter and consolation were provided by visits from neighbors and school friends. She used the injury trial as an opportunity to recall her passion for singing. With constant attention and encouragement, Courtney started to see a way return to the stage, prepared to make a terrible night into a chapter in her life. Hope and recovery. A sense of relief washed over Courtney as she entered her Hesleden front door. She was welcomed by the smell of her mother's cooking, and from the next room she could hear her father's garage tools clinking softly. She walked slowly while wearing a brace around her right knee and relying on crutches. Every step reminded me of that bus ride on a rainy night. But here, surrounded by loved ones, she found solace and an opportunity to start over. The next week was physical therapy. In order to assist her in walking correctly, Courtney found it easy to connect with her because of her therapist's affection and concern. She initially learned to bend her knee only little through controlled, mild workouts. Flexing her foot back and forth, she sat on a comfortable table. She rested again after a few seconds of balancing on one leg. It was as though she was learning to walk all over again since every step felt fresh. She observed minor gains with each session. Another 5 seconds of balancing and another 2 degrees of bend. Courtney reduced her phone use and stayed away from screens for extended periods of time after physicians advised her to rest her head. During her morning breaks, she attempted to write fresh lyrics and learned a few things about music. She wrote songs that discussed the events in her life. They covered topics including overcoming fear, finding strength, and the therapeutic benefits of music. In her article, she compared the beat of a music that is waiting to be heard to the pattern of raindrops on a window. These pages turned into a chronicle of her path. She was discovered in their home's garden shed in the afternoons. It had been converted into a tiny studio for her by her family. There were 2 speakers waiting on a wooden shelf and a microphone on a little stand. Every sound was audible to her through a laptop running recording software. She hummed at first to maintain her tone without straining. She soon transitioned to gentle renditions of Etta James and Aretha Franklin classics. She spoke in a clear, soft voice. In order to avoid pushing too hard, she recorded a slow version of Natural Woman. Her hometown heard about her recuperation. In addition to providing them with companionship and emotional support, their neighbors were welcome to bring food and eat together. Visitors brought happy drawings and handcrafted cards. One evening, some local singers assembled outside her window to give a little performance in their driveway. With her crutches leaning by her side, Courtney observed from the porch as their voices raised under a street lamp. For those who genuinely cared for her, she shed tears of appreciation. Over the course of several weeks, Courtney's therapist intensified her treatment. She added light lunges that tested her control and side steps using a resistance band. A slight discomfort in Courtney's muscles was a sign of improvement, which she welcomed. She gave her therapist a high five when she had been pain-free for 30 minutes of activity. It was like gaining a little triumph at that time. By late November, she was cleared by doctors to take a few light singing tests. It wasn't until she got back to the garden shed that she was able to stand without crutches. She calmed herself, inhaled deeply, and performed a few scales. She had a pleasing voice. While singing in her typical tone, she experienced no strain. She was thrilled to learn that she could still share her skill. She posted the video she made of her practice to her channel. Fans praised her boldness in the comments that flooded in. And they saw that her tone had taken on new dimension. She was asked to perform in Newcastle City Hall at a charity function in early December. The occasion earned money for injured young artists. Courtney changed backstage into a stunning green gown. The hem concealed her knee brace. A hush descended over the audience as she took the stage. She began by composing a gentle ballad. Based on the lyrics she created, the song gradually intensified with each line until she raised her voice in a clear, soaring finale. As they stood up, the audience continued to cheer her on. That evening, she felt a sense of pride as she walked off the stage. Although it had not been easy, her recuperation had demonstrated her resilience. Her journey was halted by the collision. But she also learned perseverance and patience from it. With her voice back and her soul rejuvenated, she eagerly anticipated performing live and writing new music. Healing had given her the willpower to keep advancing her musical profession. On that stage, she discovered hope once more. But what happens if a budding celebrity decides to give back rather than pursue fame? Next, how did Courtney choose to honor her gift? Recognizing her ability. In early 2019, following months of recuperation, Courtney returned to the public eye. She received an invitation to join Stars for Hope, a benefit tour that helps underprivileged young artists through America's Got Talent. She appeared on the Rosemont Theater stage in Chicago. Before the first chorus, the crowd stood up to cheer when she began with "Piece of My Heart." She had strength and warmth in her voice, eliciting applause that persisted long after she had departed the platform. Then, to honor trailblazing voices, a unique event called Girls of Soul brought together female vocalists. Artists performed covers of iconic soul songs at the performance, which took place at London's Jazz Café. Courtney sang a powerful version of "Try a Little Tenderness" as she came in for the last number. Around her were other actors dressed same. A standing ovation was given by the audience as she struck the final high note, and the stage was illuminated with gentle blue lights. She had a conversation with other singers backstage about their experiences as up-and-coming artists. Labels took note. In the spring of 2019, Courtney went to a Newcastle studio to record a longer piece. She co-wrote 2 original songs, one about thankfulness and the other about conquering fear. She also recorded renditions of Etta James's "At Last" and Aretha Franklin's "Respect." Producers praised her ability to combine new vitality with classic flair. When the EP debuted on Spotify and Apple Music in the summer, radio stations and music bloggers gave it favorable reviews. Beyond just recording, Courtney was all about giving back. She accepted an invitation from the County Durham Arts Council to teach a master workshop for aspiring vocalists. She instructed microphone technique and breath support in a small theater. More than 50 students showed up, many of them entering with nervousness but departing with assurance. "Your voice is your story," she said. "Say it aloud." After that, with notebooks full of her advice in hand, students waited in line for pictures and autographs. Undoubtedly, she was already well known. In her hometown, Courtney started a small scholarship fund to help others pay for lessons. In collaboration with her initial voice teacher, she offered 2 grants per year that covered 6 months of singing instruction. In brief essays, applicants discussed their personal interpretations of music. The first winners, 2 sisters, ages 10 and 12, were given a beginner's microphone and free tuition. The song they sang at their first recital was dedicated to Courtney, who was crying as she watched from the front row. By the end of 2019, Courtney had transformed from a driven competitor to a recording artist and mentor. The skill that initially astounded America was rewarded at every turn. Her experience demonstrated that achievement goes beyond notoriety. It involves spreading music, encouraging others, and viewing every obstacle as an opportunity to improve. The story of Courtney Hadwin serves as a reminder that, with perseverance, our goals can reach new heights. You have more in store if you liked this video. Be inquisitive.